Hi, and welcome to another edition of Stress Toppers. I'm your host, Reverend Chris Rosso. This week we're going to be talking about tips for time management. Our first topic is managing the unmanageable. For many of us, stress seems like one of those things where our world just moves a lot faster than it should. We often feel like the time is moving faster for us than it is for some people. A lot of people, you ask, wow, I don't know how you do it all in a 24-hour day. Well, generally those people who seem like they're really on the ball, they're not doing anything special, or they're not really a different kind of person, but they do have the ability to manage their time. So let me ask you this. What does poor time management look like? And if you are familiar with one of these symptoms or a number of these symptoms, you may be having some time management issues. You feel like you're out of control. Specifically, you feel like your time is out of control. You miss appointments. You feel like you never have enough time in the day. You're busy, but you're not really getting ahead. Your whole day is packed with activities or information or places to be, and yet you're not accomplishing a whole lot. The clock feels like it's in control rather than you. You feel like you're spread too thin. You're making too many commitments. You have too much to do. And, one of the things that I think has become clear to you by now, and is certainly clear to many of us in the stress reduction world, is that really poor time management equals stress. They're really inseparable. When you're managing your time poorly, it is going to become a stressor in your life. So, a few tips, a few points. Getting control of your calendar is in and of itself a stress reducer. When you start controlling your calendar, you start to feel better, your overall level of stress is reduced, and at Stress Toppers, that's really what we're about. Like we often say, even a small change can mean a big difference, right? Even just making a couple changes to how you manage your time or managing that time a little bit more efficiently can really make a big difference in both your time management, your idea of how your day is going, but also the overall stress in your life. The more you control your calendar, the less it's going to control you. And, people often say practice makes perfect, but I think we all know, and especially those of you in this group know, that practice maybe makes better, right? It doesn't mean that you are going to master these things. It doesn't mean that all the stress in your life is magically going to go away. But with a little bit of help and with some good tips, you can make some big strides in reducing the amount of stress in your life. So let's talk about managing it all. As always in each of these podcasts and each of these lessons, we want to give you some quick tips for getting ahead, quick tips for managing your stress that week. And these are the kinds of things that we'll talk about in the discussion forums and the kinds of things that we see you guys reply to in our video channels on YouTube. So here's some quick tips for this week. Plan every day. Plan that day start to finish, right? And generally it is helpful to really keep a calendar, even if it's a day off. You want to plan that. That doesn't mean you have to plan it down to the minute, but you do want to have a good idea, a plan of what every day is going to look like. The second one, prioritize your tasks, right? Not every task is equally important. This is true at work, it's true at home. Pick those things that are really important, put them at the top of your list. Let the things that are not as important fall to the bottom. Say no to non-essentials or non-essential tasks, right? I think a lot of us, we're people pleasers, and we want to say yes more often than we want to say no. But, once you have planned your day, you can look at that calendar and say, do I really have time to do even this extra 10-minute thing? And if you don't be dishonest about it. I think a lot of people we find are much more understanding, especially for those people who look like they're managing their time really well. If they say, look, man, I just don't have time for this, or I'm just a little too busy this week, can we do it another time? People are very understanding. Same is true for delegation. You don't have to do it all, right? There are more often than not things in your life that you can ask someone else to take care of for you. Certainly if you're a manager, one of the stressors that I have in my life is I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I really want the people around me to work at my level. And more often than not, what that means for me is I just kind of do the task myself rather than delegating it. It's not good management, it's not great time management, and it's certainly going to add more stress to my day. But I will say this, take time to do a task right. More often than not, when we feel like we're out of time, or feel like we're not managing our time well, what we try to do is rush through tasks. And what often that does is it ends up taking more time to do the thing right, or you're doing it twice. Take the time to do the task right once. At the end of the day, it's going to take less time overall. Breaking large tasks into smaller chunks helps a lot of people just kind of get their mind around the task, and rather than seeing this, you know, full day, 8 hour worth of task, if you can break it down into 1 hour chunks, you can often kind of fool your mind into believing it's a smaller amount of work. Limit your distractions. I think some of us work better when we have a few distractions in our life. We're not going to say take those away, but limit them as much as you can. And the last one, take a break. I think those of us who feel we're really busy, what we usually end up doing is working through breaks, and what that ends up doing is it ends up hurting your focus. Take a break when you can. A lot of good tips on the website this week. These tips here came from the Mayo Clinic. I paraphrased them a little bit, but there are some great resources on there for you. As always, the question we ask is what next? Continue chatting with each other, continue supporting each other in the chat rooms, supporting each other in the discussion at the bottom of this lesson. Use the tips that we have put in this lesson. There's also a PDF of this slideshow available to you if you want to download it for later reference. And those resources that we put on the website are also great. And if you can think of some, feel free to add them to the discussion. As always, thanks for watching. This has been another edition of Stress Stoppers. We'll see you next time.